Hi, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are in the world. Welcome back to Beyond the Plate RVA Season 5. I'm so excited to be back with you. It's been a minute since we last aired an episode, and that's because we had to do a couple of strategic things in the background. But I'm so excited to be back here once again to bring you the stories and the adventures of Black and Brown women in food. Again, this show is sponsored by RLP Productions. And of course, if you want to be a sponsor of this show, you can send us an email to info@RLP Productions. And we'd be happy to have a conversation about how you can be a show sponsor for our season 5 and season 6. We're still planning for that as well. But without further ado, I want to get into our fantastic guest tonight because I'm super excited about her. I met her at y'all know I went back, right? The Black Women in Food Summit in Washington, D.C. this past April. And I love this event because there's just so many wonderful women who are doing things in fields that I am not familiar with, that a lot of us are not familiar with. And when I met her standing in the line to buy my Jessica B. Harris book, I was like, yes. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce you to Cynthia Betterson, the CEO and founder of Back Home Foods, and she's got some other wonderful skill sets in her toolkit. But I'm so excited to have you, Cynthia. How are you?
I'm excited to be here. I'm doing well.
Wonderful. Again, I am so excited to have met you because you have a background that is just fascinating to me, research and development in this industry. And then, of course, you have your own company. And I want to get into all that. But I would like you to briefly tell our listeners something about you, what it is that you do. I'll introduce what you've done for me, but I want you to like take the stage and tell our readers, or excuse me, our listeners, who is Cynthia?
Okay, no problem. Well, yes, my name is Cynthia Betterson, and I am a food scientist. And
Woo!
a lot of people do not know what a food scientist is.
No.
They'll say, "What's a food scientist?" And are you a chef? And I'm like, "No, I'm not a chef." I actually
Right.
work with chefs to scale up their recipes. So,
Mhm.
for example, if they make something that would be in a pot, or one pot of soup, for example, might just weigh 400 grams, I would scale that up in a production facility that might make it on 5,000
Yeah.
pound batch size. I would test the sensory of it, make sure consumers love the product, study the shelf life of the product, help to identify packaging for the product. So, all of those products that you find in a grocery store where you just go pick it up and throw it in your cart, there's actually somebody out there who touched it, who tested it, who did multiple iterations to sort of bring it to the store shelves.
Wow. First of all, that's just like mind blowing because again, when we think about women in food, Black women in food in particular, food scientist does not enter into the conversation. So, what? Like, how did you become a food scientist? What made you like go in that direction? That's so fascinating.
It actually is an interesting story. So growing up, I was really great in math, strong on the technical side. I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. But in the 80s, my mom used to work for AT&T, or was called Northwest and Bell at the time, and they
Yes.
had massive layoffs, and everybody got laid off. And I was like, "This is horrible. I never want to experience this again." And I said to myself, "What career can I go into, or what industry should I work in that won't have layoffs?" And I was like, "Oh,
Wow.
everybody has to eat, so food will never have layoffs." Yeah, right. But anyway, I didn't know. So
Right.
I really didn't know food science yet. I put food and science together to say agricultural engineering. So my declared major when I first started at the University of Minnesota was agricultural engineering. And all of the engineering programs, the first 2 years are the same. It's just a bunch of calculus and some science classes. So the engineers were taking those classes. Well, when I got to the third year was the first ag class. And the first class I had was soils and waters and waste management. And I went in the class. There were 9 other kids in there from northern Minnesota that were from farms, and I kind of was like, this isn't what I was thinking. So I actually got up out of the class, left,
Wow.
walked to my advisor, and I said, I visualized myself with a clipboard and food going across a conveyor belt. What's that? And
Oh,
she
wow.
said, that's a food scientist. I'm like, okay, sign me up. And so I've been doing
Okay.
it ever since.
Oh my gosh, that is so fascinating because they're, correct me if I'm wrong, you're the first and only Black female food scientist I've ever met. So, are there a lot of you, or is this like
You know
really?
what? I was thinking about that. To be honest, actually, there's quite a few um females. Sorry, there's a lot of females in the food industry, whether
Right.
that be from CEOs all the way down to technicians or people who work in the plant on the line. Lots of women in the food industry. And being there, I am exposed to a lot of women of color. We see each other, be like, "Hey, girl." So, I actually have a circle of friends who are all in the food industry. So I think it's actually an industry where there's a lot of opportunities for women and women of color.
So when you were coming up, moving in the field of the sciences, food and sciences and whatnot, what did propelled you to consider starting your own company, Back Home Foods? Tell us a little bit about what inspired you to do that, what you do exactly, and all that jazz.
So, throughout my career, I've worked for a lot of major CPGs or consumer product goods companies. I started out my career working for Kraft Foods. I went on to work for ConAgra, which is another major food company, producing a lot of different products. I spent the vast majority of my career at Campbell Soup Company. I worked on the V8 brand. I worked on sauces and beverages, Prego. So, all of these times, I developed a multitude of products. I actually was a lot of times in the innovation department. So we would identify the new innovative products that we want to bring to market and then commercialize them. So that's my strength area is identifying consumer needs, looking at the technology that our company has and figuring out what actually new we can launch to consumers. And I've made these company millions of dollars.
Yes.
And so one day I said to myself, you know what? Why create, all of these new products for these companies? Let me create something for my own company. And that's where I said, you know what? I want to have a product of my own. And also, a lot of times when we would make these products, sometimes we would develop and commercialize ethnic dishes. Like, for example, a gumbo. I
Right.
launched a gumbo at Campbell Soup, but we made it mainstream. We watered it down. It just wasn't exactly the same.
Right.
As
Right.
I wanted to launch a line of ethnic foods that were authentic, like grandma used to make, and that's where Back Home Foods
Right.
comes in.
Wow. So then, I mean, that's just fascinating. I got like 5 million questions other than the ones I mentioned. Or running around in my head like it sounds so easy, but I know that it can't. It's not that easy to do.
Mhm.
But so what inspires you to like what's your favorite product that you put out for Back Home, and like what inspired you to put that out there, and what do you still love about it?
Mhm. Well, I think with product development overall, it's all about problem solving. And I like to
Mm,
solve problems, whether that be detective work, trying to figure out why something is wrong, or
right.
blue sky, trying to figure out what doesn't exist and what will people want and to create that widget. So the reason why I like Back Home Foods has three lines in it that I want to focus on. They have a Caribbean line. It has a Southern line, so Southern dishes that are typically very labor intensive to make, that takes all weekend long to make, and it also has an African line. So all the dishes in there are like simmers. They take a long time. You're doing a lot of chopping, dicing, marinating. There's a lot of flavors or seasonings that you may not have at your fingertips. So what Back Home Food does is bring all of those ingredients together. We do all the work for you. We do the simmering and all the slow cook. All you have to do is heat it up and put it over whatever starch you want, whether that's rice, whether that's roti, whether that's fufu, whatever it is. you just put the stew mixture right over your starch. What we decided to do it back home is come out with Caribbean first. And the reason why I selected Caribbean is because it's the most innovative right now.
Okay.
If you look in the marketplace, there's no Caribbean retail products. So everybody knows Caribbean, everybody's been to the
Right.
Caribbean, but nobody has actually launched a retail product like
Yeah,
this.
right.
We
Mhm.
start there first.
So, okay, literally in my head, and I'm probably sure some of the listeners' heads, we're like imagining you in this white coat with like these big mad goggles on, really, and like a big pot with all these spices and stuff you're putting in. Is that's what it's like?
That's exactly what it's like. So the plant floor, we would have on a white lab coat,
Hmm.
goggles, so a hairnet. So I have two hairnets to cover my big hair. Sometimes
Wow.
plugs, depending on the equipment that we're using. Some of it is very loud, and you're blending sometimes 2,000 pounds, sometimes 10,000 pounds. When I worked in the
Wow.
meat industry for Oscar Mayer and for Purdue Foods, sometimes those batches are 10,000 pound batches. So it's massive. Hmm.
And so, do you also are you? Well, I'm assuming that you're also involved in the tasting part to make sure that these are authentically correct.
Yes, absolutely. We a lot of times test with consumers, so
Mhm.
we'll bring them in what we call sensory panels or consumer tests,
Okay.
and we would sometimes behind a two-way mirror. So we would give them the product, they would test it and give us feedback right there on the spot, and I would take that feedback to optimize the product. Food scientists, we also work with process engineers. They design the equipment. We work with packaging engineers. They design the package itself. We work with, QA people, control operations people. So it's really a cross-functional effort to sort of bring a lot of these products to market. A lot of different disciplines.
Oh my goodness, because yeah, you said that when you worked for like some of the major brands, you had to water down some of the and if those of you who are out there listening, if you ever watched the Food That Built America, I love the one about Campbell's Soup, the history of this of the company itself and knowing that Campbell's is a huge product, it's a huge brand and some of I buy their soups, of course, Progresso. A lot of us are familiar with those soups. So those things are, and as you kind of said loosely, watered down. I can only imagine what you're doing in back home food, like the spices and stuff.
I wouldn't necessarily say they're watered down. I would just say that it's not the same as a grandma would.
Right.
So trying to get this certain specific profit margin, and they're also trying to make sure that
Mhm.
from the if 100 people taste it, that 90 will like it.
Like
So they're
it.
trying to make it so it has mass appeal.
Mhm.
Whereas back on foods, I'm not looking for mass appeal.
Right. You're targeting
To
specific.
make
Yeah.
it as it was originally intended. So, for
Right.
example, if you try the Caribbean curry chicken and you don't like spicy, you're not going to like that SKU
No.
because it
Right.
is spicy, is authentically spiced. However, the in the line, I do offer some milder SKUs,
Mhm.
like the stewed chicken and the stewed Caribbean black beans, and those are more mild, but they still pack a flavorful punch.
So, as my brother-in-law says, I love how he's changed his social media name. His social media name is now, if you ain't sneezing, then it ain't season.
Yes, your nose used to be running.
Yes, I love that. So, how did you like? Well, when was the moment that you realized that being a food scientist, like really specializing in not only that industry but in creating the back home foods? When did you realize like that was like your thing, the thing that you're made to do, your vocation in life? What brought you to that?
I'm very entrepreneurial.
Mhm.
I'm very entrepreneurial. So when I was younger, I was the one who was selling blow pops at school and things like that. Early on, I had a boys clothing website. I launched this
Oh
boys
wow!
clothing back before Amazon was the thing and all the rage, and I closed it. I thought, oh, well, I kept it open. It probably would be multi-million dollar
Right.
now. Did that. I also did product development consulting. So I want to say for the past 10 years, I've started to help other small companies to commercialize their products and bring them to market. And I have a knack for it. And I said, Cynthia, you're doing this for everybody. Just, you know what?
Right.
Kick the can yourself, make it happen.
Right.
Uh, so I tinkered around with some recipes. And then when COVID happened,
Mm.
and I was laid off, for the first
Right.
time in
Ever, right?
a 20-year career,
Wow.
I started cooking and I cooked 16 different recipes,
Wow.
developed them as I would if I was in a lab and tried to
Mhm.
get them ready to go to bring it to
Wow.
you guys.
That is so fascinating to me. So is this the reason why you came to the Black Women in Food Summit? Was it to like kind of submit what you feel you're here to do?
So I'm an expert when it comes to food product development. I will develop the best product for you that consumers want. It'll be the most innovative thing. I'm not a salesperson. I'm not
Right.
a social media expert. And
Right.
so I wanted to surround myself with, Black women in food because inside of that organization, which is phenomenal, I love it.
Right.
You have people with all different backgrounds. There were authors there, writers, bloggers, people that were in manufacturing, people that were in, marketing. It was just
Mhm.
a great place to be, to the chefs, to network with people in the food industry. So I wanted to put myself there, rub
Right.
shoulder.
I mean, you needed to be there because almost everyone there could use your services.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Because we did.
Absolutely.
Yes, Maggie's custom sweet treats. We use your service and it's fantastic. You helped us solve a big problem. So yes, you are a detective and a problem solver.
Thank you. Thank
So I
you.
love that. So so then what is your favorite thing about being a black woman in food?
You know what? I think, just having the expertise that I have and being able to share that with other people. Time kind of creeps up on you and you don't
Yes.
realize how much you've done and how much you know. And it's like, wow, wait a minute, I'm a subject matter expert. So
Right.
I enjoy being, interacting and coming into contact with people who are entrepreneurial and have things that they want to launch. And I know how to take them there. I really, really do enjoy that.
I mean, that is again, I think it's a blessing and an absolute wonderful gift that this is your wheelhouse. You know that this is your wheelhouse and you are putting yourself in spaces and places where those of us for whom this is probably the piece that's missing from our business for you to step in and help us connect those dots. I think that that is fantastic. And so my next question, my interesting question, I think for me is, what is your advice then to maybe a young woman, a young lady who's listening to this and never thought about food science, but loves science and loves food? What is your advice to her about how to get into this career field?
Well, that's one thing that I have done throughout my career is mentor
Yes.
as much as I can women, young girls, because like myself, I didn't know about this industry.
Mhm.
I didn't know that it existed. I sort of found my way into the perfect thing for me. So I do spend a lot of time with young girls and helping them to explore the food industry in general, because even if they're not technically inclined and they don't want to be on the science track,
Mhm.
there's engineering, there's marketing, there's sales. So there's a lot of different careers. There's actually even one where you work with people. You do in consumer studies with
Okay.
people.
Mhm. Yeah.
So there's a lot of opportunities in the food industry. So it's like helping them find ways to do internships
Mhm.
and just to get exposure. Those bring your kids to work day, visit a plant, a food plant, do a tour, just to expose yourself to a lot of all the different careers that are out there. There's a lot of different career opportunities in food.
So I, I hope to see this in the career days at schools, at
Yeah.
elementary and middle school. Because I don't think, again, just having a daughter myself who actually is good in science and likes science, this was not in the radar. I don't, 'cause just you don't hear about it a lot. You definitely don't see it.
If you
Right.
look at any food brand that you buy, Kellogg's, Frito Lay,
Right.
Coca Cola, they all have all of these careers, and
Right.
most of them have programs. You know what?
Mhm.
It's sort of skewed. I feel bad. I'm a woman and I got to take advantage of it, but there's a lot of female
Mhm.
Instagram programs with all of these
Right.
companies.
Yes.
Uh, but they have a lot of programs for women in STEM, and exposure to the food industry.
Well, I love that. And so in talking about food, like what is Cynthia's go-to dish for when she's had a long day at work or a long day with a client and she just wants to feel like she's back at grandma's house? What is your favorite dish to prepare? Your comfort dish?
Well, my favorite one is coming up soon in the
Uh-huh.
line, red beans and rice.
Ooh, see right
So
there.
I love rice. I love rice.
Yes.
Rice
Yes.
and everything. But also the red beans, because it just reminds me of growing up in my grandmother. She always had the beans there, cornbread,
Mm.
mashing, we were mashing the
Yes.
cornbread up and the red beans, and it was so good. And
Mm-hmm.
by themselves, it was like, but once you mash the cornbread and the rice all together, it just
Right.
takes me back to being at her kitchen. And so yeah, that's my thing. But if I don't have time to soak and cook the beans and sort them and boil the ham hock for a couple of that,
Ooh, ham hock.
and for all of that, I
Right.
just open a can of a cup of back home foods, and I'm
There
all
you
I got
go.
order to that comfort.
There you go. So let's get into it. Speaking of back home foods, what is your vision for your company in the next 3 to 5 years, and how can the community help you achieve that vision?
Yes. So right now the product is on the store shelves in the Philadelphia metro area. You can find it at
Okay.
Sprite stores. You can find it at fresh grocers, in Philly and New Jersey, and you will also be able to find it at a couple of the Bruner Brothers stores, in Philadelphia metro. I am actively trying to put it out in more places, but you can also buy the product online. So my hope is that I increase brand awareness so more people know about the
Right.
product and go out and enjoy the product, and grow it enough to where I attract, in the next 5 years, I will give myself 5 years to attract the eye of some of the companies that I used to work
Oh,
for.
there you go. Hey.
Strategy, acquisition strategy. So here it is.
There
I
you
work
go.
for Kraft. I work for Campbell Soup. You guys train me up. I sharpen my saw with you, and
Right.
you know, I'm able to combine my expertise and knowledge with my personal background and heritage, and bring something that the consumers love and is unique to the marketplace.
I love that acquisition is the goal. So
Yes,
you need for then us, the consumer, your audience to go and not only buy the products off the shelf, but request maybe stores have these products. Blow up
absolutely,
your website.
absolutely. So we're in those stores, and ShopRite is a part of a Wakefern chain, which is a
Yes.
nationwide chain. And obviously, if we do extraordinarily well at the Wakefern stores, then we will. Sorry, at the ShopRite stores, they'll extend us to Wakefern, and that'll push the product nationwide. But it's really important that people go buy it, because if it just sits on the shelf and it doesn't move, it'll get
Right.
cut. So yeah,
And that's
brand
So
what
awareness
another
is very,
is
very important.
we probably need to do another show on brand awareness on how, again, this is what the Black Women in Food Summit is about, and helping us identify how do we push our product, get
Exactly.
brand awareness for acquisition, because that's the end goal for many packaging CPGs, as you say, many businesses, is to be acquired, right?
Absolutely.
So look, all that is happening. I know your plate is extremely full, and one of the things I always ask my guests on the show, because I do a lot, as you know, a lot of work with women, with my writing, and of course with the bakery and whatnot. But how do you take care of yourself on this busy grind? Like, how do you physically, spiritually, mentally prepare yourself for the day? What is your daily wellness mindset practice?
I think the best advice I can give in
yeah.
what I do is to keep things in perspective, because entrepreneurship is a roller coaster ride.
Yes.
Every day there's something that's going to put you down in the dumps, and then the next day you're going to be flying high because something great happened, and it goes up and down and up and down. So it's really, really important to stay centered and stay steady and just ride the waves, the ups and downs. Like, don't get too excited and don't get too down, because the entrepreneurial journey is very, very, like, high and low. There's a lot of highs and lows. So I like to stay very steady. If I start to feel overwhelmed, a lot of times I'll just say, Cynthia, what can you do and what do you have control over? Take your time. Don't rush. I'm a big fan of that, because you cannot do everything. There's always going to be work out there for you. So take your time. Don't rush. Do what you can do, and ask for help.
That's the big one. Ask
Ask for help. Ask for help. Don't be afraid. Don't be ashamed. Someone else may not do it 100% as you would do it, but if you need to get it done, if 80% is good enough, 80% is good enough, and ask for help. Yeah.
I love that. Well, we are coming down to the time on our show, but I don't want you to leave without telling us, how can people find you and follow you on social media? So drop the deets, sis. Drop the deets.
Sure. Our website is Back Home Foods, www.backhomefoods.com. And our social medias are the same, at Back Home Foods on Facebook, at Back Home Foods on Instagram. And you can find the products for sale on our website. Or if you look at shop locations, you'll find all the stores where we're currently selling.
Now, what if somebody wants to contact you about doing what you did for Maggie's Custom Sweet Treat, working on those nutrition labels, your packaging design? What if someone needs you as the food scientist?
Absolutely. My consulting business is www.thecsipartners.com. And so that's www.thecsipartners.com. You can go on there and you can schedule a meeting with me with help with anything you need, from concept to commercialization, to bring your food product to market.
I just, you're my new bestest friend.
Thank you. I have fun with this.
It's like so much information, of course, that we couldn't get into, that we'll definitely have to probably like do a part 2 on, because what you don't know, you don't know. But when you find someone who has information that could help make, your business a little bit better, grow better, or help others, we want to definitely be that conduit. But I want to thank you so much for being a guest on my show. Again, ladies and gentlemen, let's thank Cynthia Betterson for being here today from Back Home Foods. Yay. And again, you're welcome. And you know what? We will definitely stay in touch. And again, if you're listening to the show and you need some help with your packaging, with your food testing, your labels, reach out to Cynthia Betterson at CSIpartners.com. And of course, you can always hit us up and we'll send you information. Thank you so much for tuning into our first episode of season 5 with Beyond the Plate RVA. I pray that we'll be back. We will be back, actually. It was another great guest for the show. And as always, thank you much for your support. Follow us on Instagram at Beyond the Plate RVA TV show. You can always send us information at our email, info@RLP Productions. And of course, you can always visit us at rlpproductions.com. I thank you guys so much, and I'll see you later. Bye.